Yes. Is this Mr. Wilson?
Yes, speaking.
Oh, thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, your book looks really exciting.
Yeah, I put on my Twitter that I hope the people don't scare easy because the book's a monster.
No kidding.
You just wanted to do the interview for your book about.
Yeah. I was curious about when you did the Dean Martin roast. What your impression of it was.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I just put a thing on Twitter. There's this sports writer on Yahoo called Wininski or whatever his name is. And yesterday he jumped all over Michael Jordan for not giving kudos to Jerry Krause, who was the GM at the time of Chicago Bulls.
Right.
And then yesterday they inducted Michael into the Hall of Fame. And this might interest you. You might be able to come back on it. He tore Michael up and said it was a sad display, yada, yada, yada. And Michael is still vindictive, and he's talking about he's settling old scores. And I didn't hear any of that in Michael's speech. And one of the things that I did hear in Michael's speech yesterday was, and I'm saying this because I'm comparing it to what I've written. I don't give accolades or kudos to anybody in this book that doesn't deserve it, and I don't vilify anybody in the book.
Right. Wow.
And it seems as though a lot of white people, pardon my political correctness, who want to see a black man on his knees all the time.
Yeah.
And Tex Winter said to Michael Jordan after Michael won the playoffs when he had the flu, scored the game-winning shot, he said, "Well, Michael, you must remember there's no I in team." And Michael said yesterday, I looked at him and I said, "No, but there's an I in win."
No kidding.
And so I put on my Twitter, Michael Jordan, welcome to history. When they told you there's no I in team, you fired back, no, but there's an I in win. You go MJ the Great.
No kidding.
And that's what I've done with this book. I mean, there has been over the years so many misnomers and wrong stories and stories that the producers brought out, like the one that I chased Norman Lear down the hall with a handgun. Now, what the heck would I have to chase an old man like Norman Lear down the hall with a handgun? If I was going to do him some harm, I'd smack him right there at the table. What would I chase him? That's like overkill. Why would I do that? As a matter of fact, Norman's people who are co-producing this film that we started in the fall with me, were doing his documentary, and Norman was trying to get me to come and do a 60-minute on-the-air spot for his documentary. So if I chased him down the hall with a handgun,
right.
Why would he want me to do his documentary?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And so, I mean, I'm not setting the record straight, as I say in the book. I could care less about that. My dad, God rest his soul, and I quote him a lot in my life and in the book, said a person can think a bigger lie than they can tell.
Yeah.
And I'm not, it's not some sort of cathartic thing for my personal angst. It is a timeline, a documented line of all of the things that happened in those days and the history that Redd and I made as we fought claw, tooth, and nail, and sometimes almost literally to get what we deserved as stars of a network show to open the door for a plethora of other shows to come on the air.
Oh, I thought when I was growing up, it was the funniest show on television, bar none.
And it wasn't, they had no playbook for us, because before us,
right.
There was none.
Yeah, there was none.
You had Cosby on I Spy. That wasn't a black show.
Yeah, no, there wasn't.
You had Clarence Williams III on Mod Squad. It wasn't a black show. You had Julia, Diane Carroll. It wasn't a black show. Cicely Tyson with George C. Scott. It wasn't a black show. When we went on the air at NBC, and now this gets back to your thing, it was the golden age in television at NBC.
Oh, yeah.
NBC was it was the goose that laid the golden egg. And Redd and I went over there. Our first pilot show got a 58 share. We just knocked everybody off the throne. Flip Wilson was walking around wearing a hat that said HNIC. You do the math. And Redd said, "Oh, he gonna have another hat on, and wait, he ain't gonna be the head digger after this." And they had Dean Martin show was over there at the time, Flip Wilson show, Sammy Davis Jr. at the Palace, the Bobby Darin show. Bob Hope was doing 3-4 specials a year. Going in Martin's Laugh-In was over there, and we didn't even have Billy dressing rooms until the tape day. We had to use the hall bathrooms to go to. And then they put out all of this nonsense, and so in a sense, I guess it does set the record straight. But I waited 30 years because I did not want to write anything that had any kind of venom in it, and I wanted to be able to be subjective, objective when I wrote it, and I believe I've done that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know. Well, what's her name? Jane Kennedy, who I understand weighs 900 pounds now.
Yeah, she was a former gold digger.
Yeah, she. That's not all she was. She did our show, and Sanford and Son, and she was over there then. And I like Jane. I mean, I thought she was attractive. She wasn't my type, though. I never liked the tall, husky, breathing, body odor type woman. I prefer. If you write this down, I'll say this never happened.
Okay, that's no problem. I'm not writing a book about her anyway, so.
Then I'll litigate you.
No problem.
I never preferred the tall, musky, breathing, heavy, all up on a Negro type woman, and she was not intellectual in any sense of the word, and so I kind of stayed away from that. And she was tagged around with this little skinny, light-skinned brother, Leon Isaac Kennedy. He was trying to get a come up, and but I did like Joan Pringle. Is that her name?
I don't recognize the name now.
The other black gold digger, Joan. What was her name?
Oh, Deborah Pratt.
Deborah Pratt.
Yes.
Deborah Pratt.
Very nice. Very nice.
Deborah Pratt. I liked Deborah Pratt, and she liked me. And Redd told I was a pimp, and so that just kind of killed that off until later years we became friends, and I put her on the new arc.
Yeah, she's very talented. She's amazing.
Well, I don't know about that, but we didn't hire her on the new art couple because she was talented. We hired her because of her body.
Yeah.
Because I wanted Sherry Belafonte because I thought Sherry was talented.
So what do you remember about the Dean Martin roast?
I remember a bunch of old drunk comedians walking through what was left of their careers, basically. I mean, if you want to be honest, if you want to give if you want me to give you the bright side of it.
No, tell it like it is. I mean, that's...
No, because then you'll vilify me.
Oh, no. But everybody else is telling it like it is.
Well...
I mean,
Dean Martin was Dean Martin, and all that implies. And everyone else was everyone else. You had comics. I don't know if you are cognizant of the fact that when you get a bunch of comics together, there's always a fight for the top banana.
Oh, yeah?
Who's going to be the top dog? And so that's what it was like. It was like everybody trying to top everybody else's line, everybody jumping on everybody else, and giving little behind-the-scenes anecdotes of things that happened in Vegas, and about who stooped who and who didn't stoop who, and that kind of thing. And so it was like old school. It was like old school. You had like Foster Brooks. You had Phyllis Diller, who I think died twice and came back. You had Muhammad Ali was on there. You had Howard Cosell. You had Bob Hope. You had John Wayne. It was like the last of a dying breed. It was like the Paleolithic age, and I was like a T-Rex with all of these. What was the big dinosaurs that ate meat?
You got me. Well, now you were on when they were roasting Redd Foxx.
I did a couple of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you tape them in Las Vegas or Los Angeles?
It's in NBC Burbank.
Yeah. Well, they always pretended it was Las Vegas,
And the budget wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, right.
I think it was favored nations that gave everybody the same thing.
And when you roasted Redd Foxx, was he a guy who could take a joke?
Well, for Redd, something like that would just have to do with profile.
Yeah.
I see what you're going for, Billy. You want the Hollywood version of it. Okay.
Well, not necessarily. No.
Yeah, you do. Let me tell you something. Redd could have given two farts in the wind less about that.
Yeah.
It was a profile thing.
Yeah.
When they roasted you, that meant that you had reached a certain level of success and notoriety.
Oh, yeah.
And that, in a nutshell, was all it meant. Now, I can't speak for Redd because I'm not Redd, and he can't speak for Redd because he's no longer here.
Mm-hmm.
But having known Redd probably better than anybody else that ever knew him, because our association was closer, and when people read the book, they'll find that out. It was just a thing of success. Red had made it, and you didn't get roasted until you made it. I mean, these roasts today, they roast in Flavor Flav. I mean,
yeah.
Like the guy said, how can you roast something that's charbroiled? I mean, I don't. That was the opening line. I said, you all can go home now. That's it. How can you roast something that's charbroiled? So the only thing that it meant to Red, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, yes, Red could take a joke. Yes, he could. He could take it and he could give it. So you could put in there whatever you want, or you can split it down the middle. I don't know if you know anything about me, but I am brutally honest.
Well, that's the way to be.
Well, not if you want to make it in Hollywood.
Well, fortunately, that's your problem and not mine.
Not my problem.
Yeah.
I live in Palm Springs.
Well, there you go.
I'm a writer. I produce and I minister, so I don't have that problem. I'm 125 miles from Hollywood.
That's beautiful. And LaWanda Page, I thought she was just the funniest person in the world.
And she was a foul-mouthed comic.
Yeah.
Her mouth was dirty and rich.
Yeah, and she came up through the nightclubs like you did, and it was very strange that they would pick her to be on a network television show. It seems, you know.
No, it doesn't. If they picked Redd Foxx, who was the architect of blue comedy, well, why not LaWanda Page?
Yeah.
Redd Foxx spawned Richard Pryor, spawned Eddie Murphy, spawned, and on and on and on ad infinitum. Redd was the master architect of blue comedy.
Yeah.
LaWanda Page and anybody else that came after Redd were, you know, just little shavings off of Redd Foxx. Redd Foxx was the one that started that and brought it to mainstream. The others could never go to mainstream. I mean, because Redd was back in the 50s with that stuff. He had those albums, the basement albums, you know.
Yeah.
Day at the Races.
Great stuff.
Uh-huh.
Well, I thought it was funny.
I'm not going to go that far.
Now, Slappy White did the Dean Martin roast as well, and he was on Sanford and Son. You know, it seems strange to me that he was on a lot in the first few seasons, but they didn't give him much work after that. And I didn't like that.
Slappy White did, he did about 4 or 5 shows, and he and Redd were partners back in the old day, and they were constantly fighting, and when they came back on television, it just kept happening over and over and over. The important thing about Sanford and Son, and I bring it out in the book, the thing that held the show together was the camaraderie and the synergy between Redd and I. That was the cement of the show. And it didn't matter what recurring characters came and went, because we weren't going to allow anybody to come up there that couldn't hold their own, but these were basically people from the Chitlin circuit.
Yeah.
You know, you had Leroy and Skillet, and these guys were not actors. You had Don Bexley. Bubba, he wasn't an actor. The closest thing that came to an actor on the show, on the recurring characters, was Gregory Sierra, who played Julio, of course, was a very, very gifted actor, and what's his name, Pat Morita, who played Achu, and Donna.
Oh yeah, she was.
And the 2 policemen, Hal Williams and Hoppy and Smitty. And the rest of them were stand-up comics. You know, Slappy White was a one-liner. You know, you have to understand. You just bought a house in the neighborhood. You plan to stay? Yeah, damn right I plan to stay. I bought the house, didn't I? He said, my wife just nags. What is your wife? A nagger? No, a little Mexican boy. You know, it's the old school. It was like I hated that because I'm from the theater, and it took a lot of getting used to be around people like that. It was. For me in those days, because my introduction into that life, it was like I'm with the dregs now. When you come from the legitimate theater, television is a sellout.
Yeah. Really?
How old are you, Billy?
I'm 53.
Well, then you don't know this?
Well, no, I do know that. But I'm interviewing you.
You said really like bewilderment, like identity.
Well, I guess I meant it.
I didn't want to pop your cherry.
No.
Before. You should have been around the block twice.
No, believe me. I worked in the movie industry for 15 years, and so
I know.
Glad to be done with it.
About you,
yeah. Well, and these girls actually toured 2 seasons with the Roy Radin vaudeville tour.
Which
girl? And the girls that I'm writing about that were in the Gold Diggers. Maria Lauren and Linda Eichberg.
Let's see, I didn't know.
They were the Alberici sisters, yeah.
I didn't know them.
Yeah, and they toured with the Roy Radin, and I know you were friends with Roy Radin. Can you give me some insight into what kind of person he was, or?
No, I thought you said this was about the Gold Diggers.
Well, it is. Well, they were on tour with him, so that's, you know.
I didn't know,
if you don't want to talk.
I didn't know them, and I didn't know they were on tour with him. So
yeah.
I'm going to say about that.
Okay, that's fine. That's cool. I appreciate that. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. I really appreciate you calling and talking. I really did.
Well, I mean, if that's all you need, because, I mean, it was an experience. For me, it was like I did those shows in the early days of my coming to NBC. I never wanted to do television.
Yeah.
But I had a very, very nasty habit that I acquired as a child in Harlem, and then I took it to Vietnam and came back with it, and I still have it today. I got this habit. It's called eating.
No kidding.
Boom, boom. I'll be appearing here all week just to waste this on the way out. So they said to me, "We got All in the Family spot for you." I said, "I don't know what that is." They said it's first year of the show. Watch it. It's the #1 show. It'll help you. I've just done a film with Sidney Poitier. He said it'll help you. And I watched the show, and I said it's despicable. It's vile. A guy like this character, where I'm from, will be placed on an endangered species list. The actor, not the character, not the actor.
Right.
Until they told me what the script was. 2 black guys break into the bunker home, rob him, and flip the script. I said, "Where do I sign?" I'll be appearing all week. Could be working on the way out.
And when I was going to say that guy was that script was written by the guy who wrote Cooley High, and I forget his name right now. But.
Yeah, Cleavon Little and I did that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Brilliant.
The late Cleavon Little.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, I gave you a little insight in there. If you take anything out of context, I'll litigate. And,
well, I'll run it by you then before I publish it. I'll just run.
Well, I didn't say anything, so I mean, it's not. So, what do you have, a recorder on?
Yeah.
I figured that.
Well, I want to quote you accurately, but like I say, I won't publish anything unless I run it by you first.
Well, it was like old school. I mean, what can I say? It was, you're talking about a guy. I grew up in New York City. My roots are in the theater. I dropped out of college to go and do a play down at the Arena Stage Theater in Washington, D.C. My mother called me up. I thought, okay, I've only got 3 more months to this semester. I'll be cool. They drafted me. I went to Vietnam, fought with the 4th. Came home, was a little bitter, but threw myself back into my career, started moving and very quickly went to the top. And I found myself thrown in with guys who were famous when I was in grade school. I mean, I'm 63 years old, but these guys back in the day were my age almost then.
Yeah.
And these guys were old, hardened, crusty comics that would rip your heart out. Like guys like who befriended me, what's the comic's name? Not Joey Bishop, he was a friend of mine. Oh, I can't think of this guy's name. He also was out on Roy's tour.
Jack Carter.
Jack Carter.
Yeah.
Jack Carter. These guys were like hardcore comics. They go out on the stage, and these guys were like, you ever see the cage fighters today in this?
Yeah.
These guys were cage fighter comics, man. They would rip the heart out of the audience, and they were funny, but it was like a method, and it was ugly. It was ugly, because backstage, these guys would stab you. So I don't mean literally.
Right.
And it was like I was like this virgin around all these people, and it was like, oh my goodness, lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. I would go home after doing a show like that and take a sitz bath.
And when you did the Dean Martin roast, did they give you a script, or did the people deviate from the scripts at all, or did they ad-lib?
They would give you lines.
Yeah.
They would give you funny lines. They would say like, I understand that you saw Dean Martin on the way home tonight, Damon. What curb was he lying on? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dean Martin drove a yellow Stutz Blackhawk, which was the worst car in the world. I mean, if you find one today, it's the worst driving car on earth, but it's pretty. And it's got the Burrow dashboard and the 14-karat gold and all that stuff, and it was yellow. As a matter of fact, the guy at Parallax Studios, well, not Parallax Studios, the guy in Detroit, we're shooting our film in Detroit. The guy at WADL has a car collection. Then he bought that old car and he painted it black. It was yellow.
Wow.
Dino had it, and he had Drunkie on the plates.
Right.
That might be something you can use in your article.
Yeah.
I used to see Dean coming down the hall every day, and I said, how you doing, Dean? He said, hey, Pally. I said, what'd you do today, Dean? He said, I did the same thing I did yesterday, And the same thing I'm going to do tomorrow. I played golf.
And that's what he did, apparently.
and he didn't drink.
Yeah, really?
And that's what I do now. I write, I play golf, and I raise my grandkids.
That's a beautiful life.
Yes, it is. And don't associate me with Hollywood. I resent that.
I'm sorry, I'm naive.
You're right. And it was like being thrown in, whenever I was around those people, because I don't mean any disrespect. These were great people. I mean, I'm honored. I'm standing in my office and in my house. I have a house in Orange County, and I'm looking at a picture of me at CBS, and I'm telling you, every star, Alfred Hitchcock, Ann Southern, George Burns, Red Skelton, Lucille Ball.
Oh, yeah. The 50th anniversary show, yeah.
When I was at CBS.
Yeah, that's right.
So these were all great people, but I mean, behind the scenes, when you talk, like Lucille Ball, these were serious people. I mean, I did some work at Debbie Reynolds' studio, and she'd stab you. These were hardcore show business people. This was their life. And they made no bones about letting you know, okay, kid, you're on our stage, do it, say it, and get off. And they were polite to me because Redd and I were the kings of NBC. So what are they going to say to me? How you doing, Demar? Yeah, I'm an old timer.
Number one show.
Hey.
Beautiful.
But it was, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't admire these people. I was respectful of these people because, as I said before, they were talented beyond belief, and they were famous, and they were iconic, but it wasn't my element. I played Vegas with Glenn Campbell, and the only reason I played Vegas in Tahoe, I started as a hoofer. And the only reason I did it was because I walked out on Sanford and Son for more money, and they said, you can't do television, you can't do radio, you can't do movies. If your house up in Truesdale Estates catches on fire and a camera crew comes out and we see you interviewed on television, you're in contravention of your contract. So I said, okay, I'm going to Vegas. And I did that for about 4 months. And the money was grand. It was great. It was huge. But that lifestyle, Billy, oh, my God.
Yeah, what was it like to play Vegas in the 70s?
Well, I played the Hilton International with Glenn Campbell. We did co-star billing on that marquee. And in those days, the Hilton is a hotel that's off the strip. But only the big acts were at the Hilton. That was Bill Cosby, Barbra Streisand, Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Because the night that we opened, the announcer came out, and those days that room was cavernous. It seats about 3,900 people.
Wow.
And I'm standing there, this kid who played the Apollo Theater and who danced across the country, and I'm standing there, and I got my girls, and I got my rhythm section because they had the house orchestra, and I hear all these thousands of people back there. They had an 8 o'clock dinner show and a midnight show in those days. And it was the first show, and I looked out, and I had never, my manager, Nicky Savano, which rhymes with banana, do the math, he said, I'm not going to turn, he never turned the house lights on when we were rehearsing. And then when I peeked out through the curtain before they introduced me, I knew why. And to add insult to injury, the announcer said, and next week, ladies and gentlemen, and the timpani went, brrr, the king is coming to the Hilton International. Elvis Presley. The place went crazy. And I said, I got to follow this guy's name. and it was like sleep all day, up all night. And it was like murder. I mean, at the end of the first week, I started as a hoofer at the age of 6. I had calluses on every part of my foot. I've never worked so hard in my life, and I don't know. And I lost 25 pounds to do it, because when I was doing Sanford and Son, people said, "Oh yeah, he's on crack. He's on that stuff." I wasn't on anything. You can't do 2 shows a night for 4 weeks and have no weight on you. So I was down to Skeletor frame, and still, it almost killed me. And I said, man, I don't know how these people do this. I don't know how Sammy Davis Jr., yes, I do. He drank, smoked, and used cocaine. I don't understand how they could do that night after night. It's not a life. It's like a vampire.
Yeah.
And that's what all those guys were. They would come on that show, the Foster Brooks, and well, not the actors, of course.
Yeah.
But all of the comics, those guys were they were tough people, man. They played the Bourse circuit. They played Catskill. They played Vegas. Those guys were tough. Alan King, I tip my hat to guys like him. He's gone now.
Yeah.
But those guys were hardcore.
Can't argue with that. That's amazing.
Different era, brother. It was a whole. Like I said, I've never been afraid of anything to come out of a woman, the ground, or an egg. But I had respect for those guys because they talk about the rap stars fighting. Them guys would break out into a brawl.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Mr. Wilson. Great to talk to, and you give me some great stories. And like I say, I'll pass any text that I use in the book on to you before it's published.
Okay,
so
will
you
you
can check
email it to me?
Yes, I sure will.
Very good, and make it nice because
yeah.
I saw the thing that thing there. I don't know if they'll ever find me on that. You got more stuff on there than Jehovah's Got Witnesses.
Well, yeah. Well, it's been a number of years. It's been a long, 15 years.
And where are you in New York now?
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, really? It's my favorite state.
Yeah, it's beautiful right now.
Oh, it's beautiful all the time. I got a lot of friends up there at Rock Barn, up in outside of Hickory.
Yeah.
And I used to go up there a lot. I used to minister up there a lot. And then down in Chapel Hill, I like over there.
Yeah.
Friends over there. I love the state of North Carolina. It's my favorite state, other than California, in the United States.
Well, mine too. And I love California too. So.
I ministered with Shirley Caesar down there also.
Oh gosh! Wow, what a talent! Gee.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
wow.
Shirley and I have history.
That must have been amazing.
Shirley's a great lady. We started hooking up back in circa 92.
Wow. Brilliant artist. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.